So this is going to be my leap into more long-form content. I've been doing some Instagram posts occasionally, sharing some thoughts and insights that I've had, and yeah, I realized that a minute and a half just tends to scratch the surface with me. I like to take my time and meander and have examples and let my ideas blossom a little bit and settle. And so yeah, I'm coming here to YouTube to explore what it's like to make content for this and talk about some of the topics and issues that are really interesting to me and that I think are interesting to others, and provide a bit of a different perspective on it than I see other people talking about, or at least in my field, at least in my radius. So yeah, my background is, and the background I'm coming from is from a background of spirituality, specifically Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, that I've been immersed in quite a lot for about 10 years, and as well as just my own sensitivities and perceptions. I feel like I have quite a grasp on energetics on a grander scale and also on a more micro scale, as well as what are some other somatics. So I have studied somatic therapy and healing, and so using emotions, using our own sensations, our reconnection to our body and our own empowerment, our own healing, our own letting go to come back to our own essence, both through somatics and through yoga, and how that plays out on an individual level as well as on a more societal level. So yeah, these are all the different kind of lenses that I'm going to be seeing through and sharing. And yeah, the topic that's coming to mind today, it's something that's actually been percolating with me for quite a while, and it's something I've had so much, it's like I'm doing like the scariest topic first, because I've been so scared to talk about this, and it's such a landmine, powder keg topic. I don't see really anybody talking about it in a nuanced way. It's like two blunt instruments being smashed at each other, trying to make each other listen, and I don't see anybody with the courage to kind of weave into this topic with more nuance and openness, because it is such a charged topic. And it's been really interesting to me, and the topic is basically what's been happening in I think it's the West mostly, especially the United States. I think a lot of people in the United States say the world, they think that's happening in the world. It's not totally happening in the world, but it's this like rise of women empowerment. And at the same time, especially in the United States, the kind of shrinking of the males, of the men. So that kind of, it was maybe imbalanced one way before, and now I feel like it's pretty overcompensated in the other way. And like, what's going on here, and what are the different components of it? What are the nuances and the philosophies and the kind of spiritual essences and topics that are driving this, and how do we get it back into balance? That's my ambitious topic for talking about it. So in 2019, I was seeing a big rise of, especially on the internet and like Instagram, of a lot of feminist topics, and I'll have to look into them later, like all these specific different like phrases and topics that were driving dialogue and creating a lot of power and momentum and strength with women. And I think a lot of these topics have a lot of value, but the real thing I want to talk about is how a lot of these topics, which have so much value and awareness and bringing a light to what's actually happening in in the subtle things happening in dynamics, whether it's interpersonal, whether it's structural, like in systems, like government or work systems or relationship systems. So these topics play out. These topics have a lot of value in bringing awareness to those things. But my lens of somatics, my lens of meditation and spiritual practices, what I also see is at the same time it's bringing awareness to these topics, it's also creating a backlash of negativity and depression and kind of despair, because the mind doesn't always know how to handle these big topics. And the mind doesn't know how to handle two things at the same time a lot of times. Like if we see something is wrong, we can't see that it's wrong with the asterisk. A lot of people will see that it's wrong and that's the way it is. And when we have these rigid, so it all depends on the mind. So if we have a rigid mind and we get some information, we get a topic, a rigid mind will be black and white and say, this is how it is everywhere. This is how it is with everything. And the mind will believe that. Other people will be, that'll be contagious. Other people will start to feel that as well. And it'll rub off, on many people. And then it starts to become reality. So you have to be really careful at what we believe. And we have, that's why spiritual practices are so important, because we keep coming again and again back to our essence and letting go of stories and letting go of what's not true and helping us to see the present moment fresh, even if we have an idea of what something is, because things are also always changing. Even if there are challenging systems in place and challenging patterns, a pattern can be broken at any moment. And if we're stuck in the past, if we're not ready for the pattern to change, then we'll perpetuate that pattern. And that's like what I think probably is called karma in a way. So yeah, coming back to the topic, what I'd like to mention is this. So when I left the United States in 2019, it was like, and I saw this dialogue building up quite a bit over time, and I was in a very traumatized state. I had PTSD. I was also, so my nervous system was not really able to be strong at all. I was overly affected by all of these energies and these informations and these patterns that I was seeing, and how people were, in this rise of women empowerment, and how it was affecting me as the message I was getting as a male, the subtext that I was seeing in those messages. And it was actually like, so at that time for me, I was really looking for safety. I was really, my nervous system needed safety so much. And there was this rise of that, this all of a sudden, like on the internet, I feel like women realized they had so much power in their voice, and they hadn't been speaking their truth, and they just spoke their truth very, very loudly and very strongly. And they wouldn't be silenced. They didn't want to listen. Also didn't want to listen. They didn't want to hear other side of it. They really needed to speak their truth, and they spoke it out so forcefully without really also noticing the impact and being aware of the subtle things that were happening in those messages as well. How there's more nuance to it than just not speaking their truth, which of course, speaking our truth is a wonderful thing, and it's so important to be able to speak. And if anybody, whether it's women or men, if we're speaking in a way that's causing harm to others, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that's going to have consequences. So we also need to be intelligent and discerning in our speech. Is this the right moment to speak the full truth? Is this the right moment to speak at all? Is this the right moment, or do we speak a layer of the truth? Like, who are we? It depends on who our audience is. Because someone who can't receive the truth, if we're trying to give them our full truth, it's gonna not land properly. It's gonna be, there's gonna be projections, and there's going to be reactions. And that's not a reason not to speak the truth, but we have to also understand who we're speaking to and what we want out of people. If we really want to be heard deeply and fully, we have to have someone with that capacity. We can't speak to an ignoramus and tell them philosophy and expect that the ignoramus is gonna, understand the philosophy. Like, we can speak to ignoramus about other things and we can enjoy that conversation. But if we're trying to get an ignoramus to understand philosophy, we're going to be very frustrated. Obviously, we need to get that need met to be heard by someone who has the capacity. So yeah, in 2019, I was about to leave. I was like, I needed safety, and things were collapsing in my life with PTSD, and just also realizing the toxic systems I was in, at working in a hospital. I was very isolated. I had just left a relationship where I hadn't desired any outside friendships, and once that relationship fell away, I didn't have any, supports and friends, and I also had PTSD, so it's very difficult to, I don't know if anyone's ever tried, but it's one of the most difficult things to make friends when you have PTSD, because your nervous system is just a mess, and even no matter how hard you try to hold it together, I was just giving off difficult vibes, I'm sure, and you can't connect to people, and most people don't have the capacity to hold that kind of, most people don't have the capacity to hold that kind of energy of healing, of sitting with someone with that kind of pain. So obviously it was very difficult for me to feel safe with anybody, as I had a tremendous level of pain. And so I was seeing all this information on the internet and all this rise, and just seeing so much. The thing that keeps coming back to me, and I think this is kind of the essence we have to be really careful of with this rise of feminine empowerment and feminism, and all of these different kind of phrases and philosophies and observations, and it kind of ties into wokeness as well, which for me, I feel like is, this wokeness is like kind of an offshoot of feminism, as well as like therapy, people going to therapy and understanding healing properly. It's kind of like a mixture and amalgamation of all of them, trying to be, inclusive and trying to really have a harmonious life with others, is what I feel like is what it's about, which is a beautiful concept, and there's different ways of implementing it, which, people agree with or disagree with in various ways. But so back to my point. So the main thing I was noticing, and I had this feeling, because as when I just have a very sensitive nervous system, so I'm reading, and I have a very philosophical mind. I've been neurodivergent. I've been studying people forever, like the cultural anthropologist, trying to understand what makes people work, why, and I have a very good intuition for what themes are driving people. And I just kept on having, I would see these kind of comments, these blunt force comments, and my initial I'm like also kind of very justice oriented and argumentative and devil's advocate-y. My parents used to say I should be a lawyer when I was growing up, and so I would always have this retort in my mind, like, yes, but like, what about this side of it? And every time I would have that other side of it, within a few weeks or something, I would see a new phrase, like a new kind of theme come up that would counteract that idea that I had. And this is all very abstract, but it's like, I don't know how to describe it better. And I started realizing, I saw this pattern enough over and over and over again, and I started realizing, this modern like feminist rhetoric, a lot of people, I think, are really using it to never be wrong. Like, I think a lot of women are using this language, using these like phrases and these if this happens, say this, if this happens, it means this. And no matter what you do, it's always like a trap. Like, you're always gonna, like, if you're on the other side of it. And it's like, it's a way, wow, like, if I believe this, if I like say these things and believe these things, and I'll have to do a little more research and like get more specific with it for future things, so I can pick it apart more directly. But yeah, I just got this feeling like, wow, like depending on your perspective, you could use this just to feel like whatever you say is valid. Like all my feelings are valid. Whatever I like, don't tone police me. Whatever tone I say is totally fine. It does, and like there's things like your intent doesn't mitigate your impact. So it's like, even if you have the best intentions, if I get triggered, it doesn't matter, which there's so much more nuance to this, but like it basically, if you have the right perspective and use these right phrases, you can just always be right. And which always being right is basically the ego. The mind hates to be wrong. The mind loves certainty. And we want to be right. We want to be able to say as we like, do as we like, never be criticized. It's like this ego that doesn't want to be wrong, that never wants to be rejected, that wants to be right all the time. Like everybody wants that in a way. Like no one wants to feel like they don't know what they're talking about. No one wants to feel inferior or incompetent. And so I think a lot, like what I was seeing was a lot of this was doing just that, was like giving a lot of women the ability to just never be wrong. And, at the same time, there's also a lot of, people are having a difficult time with relationships and complaining about relationships and saying, women are too much in their masculine energy and men are too much in their feminine energy. And this always being right, this strong ego thing, that's such a masculine quality. And for women to take, of course men are having their part too, but like for me, I see that as one of the defining contributions is like all of this rhetoric, all of these, with that empowerment is coming an ego with it, that they always have to be right, that they can't let in, it's like a lack of vulnerability. Like if we don't have, like, women, I think, are traditionally like the bearers of vulnerability, and if we don't have vulnerable women, we got a lot of problems. And so, which is of course not to blame anybody, it's all these things I think are happening for a reason, and they, things rise and then they go out of balance, and then this side rises and then it kind of balances out, which I think we're kind of coming back to now in a way. Like people are finally getting the courage to like see the chinks in the armor of these philosophies, and there's a lot of value in them too, of course, but there's also a lot of distortion. So yeah, like in 2019, my nervous system was shot. I was seeing all this stuff. I needed safety. My life was collapsing, and it was like all these other factors as well led to the perfect storm. And I went abroad, and then COVID happened. I just got back. It's been 5 years. I'm finally back in the United States. So I've had a lot of time to, be in other cultures with totally different paradigms, and like really see how other paradigms of relating work, as well as to kind of have space to heal those dynamics, because back then, like I just didn't have the strength to stand up for my own views. Women were speaking very loudly, and everyone says, oh, men have been speaking loudly for, thousands of years or whatever. I didn't feel that was the case for me. Like I've always been a very sensitive person, and I was also, I always related more to the feminine. So I always felt like I had a hard, more sensitive, and I just felt like I was always, I never had a chance to really speak my truth strongly. And so, and with the women rising, I felt like there wasn't any place for me to do it, that they were taking up that space. And I didn't have the strength to weather what I feared was going to be the warfare coming back at me for airing my opinions. And so now it's been 5 years. I've been doing so many spiritual practices, doing so much nervous system regulation, so much learning, so much healing, so much introspecting and meditating. And so I have some perspective on this, as well as some strength. I've been away for a while, so I've seen other viewpoints and other things that work, that maybe people that only have lived in the United States, they may have a hard time imagining any other paradigm but the one they're in. But that's, you know, part of the beauty of traveling. So so back to so I had this feeling like, okay, it's this philosophy in a lot of ways has a lot of great points, but also it you know, creates the possibility to just for us to believe that we're always right, that the proponents of this feminist these feminist philosophies are always right. And, you know, it reminds me of how spiritual, you know, in Sanatana Dharma, it reminds me how information and knowledge was passed from the guru to the disciple. And before the internet, even before books were, you know, were widespread, like, you know, you could get the Bhagavad Gita at any spiritual bookstore, or you could just go to the Internet Archive and you can look up any sutras that you want, or the Brahma Sutras, or all these things that are containing the ultimate philosophies of life. I am Brahman, I am the divine. Not everybody knew this stuff. Not everybody could just walk down to the bookstore and learn this stuff. Yeah, we're all embodiments of the divine. Even now, it's still not common for people to know that, especially outside of India, I think. But, you know, a lot more people now know it than they used to. And so, but the problem is, we're all at different, what we don't realize, what the Western mind doesn't realize, is we're not all the same. We don't all have the same mind. We don't all have the same level of consciousness. We're not all equal, so to speak. You know, Western science loves to say, okay, like, you know, let's do a study, and if 99% of the people this applies to, then we may as well just assign that it works for everybody. But it doesn't have that room for nuance. It doesn't say, we just think that, you know, we think that nutrition should be like this, learning should be like this. It's kind of more of a one-size-fits-all big picture approach, whereas everybody's different. Everybody has a different mind. Everybody has a different intelligence, different understanding, different life, different family culture. Everyone's coming to things differently. And you tell everybody, I am embodiment of the divine, you're going to get a lot of different interpretations of that. And that's what I love about Sanatana Dharma, the beauty of it, because it assumes that everybody is different. Everybody needs a different dosage. Everyone needs a slightly different medicine. And that's the job of the guru, is to know the disciples so well that they know without any selfish interest the right thing at the right time in the right dose. And that's why, you know, you see a lot of spiritual teachers and so-called spiritual gurus that are causing damage. They're not, you know, it's like the hardest job in the world. Not everybody knows how to give that right dose and have the patience and have the lack of ego to know exactly what that dose is. So, I think I lost my point. So that's how information was given from guru to disciple, the right thing to say, the right thing to do at the right time. And also, like, information wouldn't just be given like immediately. You'd have to like go to the guru. You'd have to like spend years just like doing basic chores and just like, you know, singing songs and like meditate. Like, they wouldn't just start off with scripture classes. That you would live there for a while and you would kind of marinate, you would steep in that environment so that you'd get the subtle essence of the environment, subtle essence of the guru, the subtle essence of the culture of the ashram. And then after some time, then you start learning the knowledge, and so their minds would be ripe for it, be able to receive it. But when you just receive on day one, you go to the bookstore from a Western materialistic culture and you say, I am the embodiment of the divine, it's like, oh, so everything I do is fine, I can just do whatever I want, and no one has and it's right, and no one has the right to tell me otherwise, because my anger, my frustration, my this, my that, everything I say, everything I want to do, it's divine. And on one level that's true, but there's just so many levels to it. So so that's what I saw. And so that's the problem the propagation of the internet is you get all the information, it's amazing, but like, are we ready to receive it? A lot of the stuff, you can't just, someone that received the Brahma Sutra at the right time theoretically should become enlightened, because those words are written by enlightened beings and they're so potent that if you have all the other accumulated information and you just get, boom, that one thing, it should like hit you like a freaking lightning bolt, and you should see it, you should experience it. So most of us, I can't just read the Brahma Sutras and have that happen. Like, people are like in deep meditative environments for years and years and years, and that's how they could receive it. And so we have to understand, but I think it's still very useful to read. This is the Kali Yuga, and this is the way it's working. And we, for some, things were getting so dark, I think, with the withholding of certain informations. A lot of information was like drying up and not known to a lot of people. And then with the internet, now it's propagating, but now it's propagating and it's being misunderstood. So now we have to find that balance. And for me, it's been a good thing, but it's also very challenging, and you see a lot of, misinterpretations. So I think, so in the same with this, the rhetoric that I'm seeing around a lot of the empowerment, and I'm not going to get too much into details because I don't have a lot of, I want to go do some research and find like specific things they're saying eventually, and just like pick them apart a bit and say how, yes, this is true, and here's where the nuance is, and if you use it in the wrong way, if you use it as a blunt force, a blunt tool, then it's going to create more separation, more polarity, more like negative polarity, and more separation. Because for me, my ultimate reason of talking about all this stuff, I'm interested in unity. I'm interested in like love and connection, and I want to see for myself, and I would love to see for others, the inner healing to rise in love, to rise in divinity. Doesn't everybody want that? We all just want to be happy and be around beautiful environments and wonderful people and just enjoy life. That's, for me, what I want. And so I'm interested in these things, and I'll talk more about them in the future. But I just want to leave it with that, with the idea of being really careful. I think the main thing for me, coming from the lens of somatics, is like, how does this feel in my body? How does this concept, how does this idea, when I say this, when I like turn it on, does it create more love in me, or does it create anger? Does it create defensiveness? Does it create guardedness? If I have the idea whatever I do is right and never wrong, I know it's hard for, no one wants to feel shame. There's this, so much shame in our culture, and we want to be free from that. And I think that's great. And I've seen, in other cultures, how they really live like basically almost free from shame. And it doesn't mean, and like, you think, oh, if I'm free from shame, everything will be perfect. Like, there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be something new. But we don't want to feel shame for who we are and how we think and how we act. But at the same time, we need to be self-responsible. We need to be aware, how is this affecting me? When I talk this way, is it making me angry? Is it making me agitated? Like, if you're paying attention, you'll feel it. And you can also notice the effect in others. And when I'm talking this way, when I'm, sometimes we have to say something and then we wait and then we watch, how does it affect others? Do I want to continue going in this way? It's like, it's okay to do something and it has an effect. And, sometimes, and the more we do this, the more we can trust our intuition and really tune in. Okay, I came, it's because it's hard to know. Is it me? Is it them? Is it this reason? Is it that reason? The more we're clear in ourselves, the more we trust ourselves, we can say, okay, this is mine. This is someone else's. And that's okay. But if we just automatically are like, nothing is mine, everything is everyone else's, which I see in a lot of people. It's a lot of spiritual bypassing, a lot of like, people that are done with shame, so they don't want to take responsibility for anything. But there's a lot to unpack. We can't just, fake our way through. We can't just put a mental construct around our healing, we really have to go into it and feel the things. We have to feel the shame. We have to see where we're wrong, see where we're mistaken, see where we screwed up, see where we, and we have to accept those things. We have to accept exactly as we are right now, exactly what we've done, and we have to be willing to change it, but come from a place of love. We can't blame ourselves and hold on to things. But if we really want to grow, if we really want to change, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to say, oh, this was mine. I was projecting. I was suppressing. I was this. So anyway, I think that's a good place for me to start right there. But I just want to plant the seed of going into different topics such as these aspects of feminism and wokeness and just society, American society in general. And there's a lot of other topics I am interested in: communication, how the energetics of communication, relationships, whether it's friendships, intimate relationships, family relationships. I'm not like a super expert on all these things. I don't have a perfect family. I don't have a perfect family relationships. I don't have a partner. But I am really interested in vulnerability. I am really interested in authenticity. It's something I've been studying and practicing for so long. Inner healing and through my own practice and journey as a somatic therapist, I'm always having to do my own work constantly to be able to be clear and untriggered when I support other people going through their deep processes. So it's something I feel like I can speak from experience. I mean, that's the only way that I ever want to share things, is from my own direct experience and perception. Because it just hits different when you're speaking from your own experience versus just something you read somewhere in a book. It's the integrated knowledge, and to me it's important to share integrated knowledge. So thanks if you got this far. Bravo. I didn't think I could, I knew I could talk for a while, but in my first video, I didn't think I could go for over half an hour. But I hope you'll join me in the future. I really hope that I'll be continuing to share more long-form videos like this. Please feel free to leave a comment with any questions, with any topics that you want me to discuss. I would love to have a interactive kind of dynamic with the people that are watching this. So please leave me your thoughts. Lots of love, and let's give just a couple seconds of deep presence at the end, just to, if your mind is spinning, if your energy is one way or the other, this is a good time just to breathe together. Just to return back to your center. Let whatever, don't worry about getting we can't possibly grasp all these concepts at once. These are things that have taken me a decade to turn over, to start to understand. I'm sure I'll continue to understand more as things go on. So just let whatever lands for you land. And also just know that as time goes on, more things might reveal themselves and integrate. You might get your own insights. And I just want to thank you so much for watching. Wishing you a beautiful day wherever you are. And namaste.